And we are live straight out of New York City. Right, Monkey?
New York City.
Yeah, I don't know. Why not? You know?
Okay.
Photos, man. Yeah, we're just here again. They're a little bit high. We have to do that proper intro. Let's make it all professional. Here we go, everybody. Yes, everybody, and welcome to High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from Percy'sGrowroom.com. I am Mackie from the UK, and joining us on the panel this week, we have Monkey Do.
That's me, Monkey, here once again, enjoying this beautiful summer-like, almost beautiful weather here. Hope everybody's having a good day today.
Nice. Marge has gone off. She's got some things to do. And Bubble Hawk did his
Boo.
show up this week. Jesus.
Boo.
Boo. So
That's it.
it's just me and Monkey today, but we're going to be discussing trimming cannabis, which is an easy thing to talk about, but an interesting one as well. We both have different perspective on this, right, Monkey?
Well, see, Mackie doesn't mind talking about trimming, but he doesn't like trimming. I don't particularly hate it myself. So, yeah, we do have different perspectives on this.
Yeah. But there's a lot to be covered in this episode, as you'll see. It seems like an easy task where you're just trimming leaves off plants, but there's a lot that goes into it. So we'll discuss that. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done that before. And there's a poll in the sidebar over there on if helping us decide whether we keep it as two streams like this. Do we have the grow guides, then take a break, and then come on? Well, sorry, do we have the cannabis news, take a break, and then come with the grow guides, or we just stay for one whole stream? And let us know in the comments as well if you have a perspective on that, and let us know in the comments if you're watching it after the live stream. Do you prefer it as two shows or one show? What's best? Your input is important.
Yep.
Yeah. So what else? What else can we say at the start of the grow guys? You know, because we don't usually do it like this. But we're here now. Yeah. What else was I was gonna say? I had a good thing to say then, and then it just slipped. Oh, right. We have some questions for the listener mail section towards the end of the show. If you have any questions for us in the chat, then put a Q and then write your question, and then we know that you're referring to us when you're asking your questions, and we can add them to the listener mail section near the end of the show. So, one show all the way. Two streams is best. It weeds out the insincere.
I've been reading all these comments again. Cute ones here every now and again. Interesting stuff. Yeah.
It's 50-50. It's very much split down the middle.
In other words, they don't really care what we do.
Yeah, I have no strong feelings either way. That should have been an option. Damn. But yeah, no. Oh, where are we? I'm just there looking at the YouTube screen now. Gosh, so unprofessional. Yeah, so with that, I think we just might as well get stuck in straight away with the grow guides there, Monkey. You ready to just go in and talk about trimming?
Let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
Why not?
You would hear us often say on this show how much we enjoy this hobby of growing cannabis plants. There's one part of growing cannabis that many of us dislike very much. Some people can tolerate it, some people just hate it to the core of their being. I am one of those, you know, and this is trimming cannabis plants.
True. Now, I've actually known one or two people that actually love to trim cannabis, but they're rare.
Yeah, they're usually locked up in cells for being psychopaths, you know.
Actually, the people I'm referring to are perfectionists, and they enjoy making the product look nice.
And this is how it starts with your trimming. You want the product to look nice. You're very meticulous with the way you trim all the leaves off, making it look really nice. That lasts for about an hour. And after the first hour's gone, you're not so meticulous with the rest of the buds, man. When you've got a big harvest to trim, Jesus, it's torture.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's one reason I don't hate it so much is because usually on my harvest, I'm harvesting 2 plants at a time, and I can usually knock that out in a day, you know. So it's not like I have long-term trim jail in my growth style.
Man, yeah, trim jail is always too long, man. I mean, even because I usually grow 4 plants, so and they're a decent size. It takes a couple of hours to trim each one, so I'm looking at least 8 hours of trimming, and
Hmm.
that's just the minimum. If you get extra big plants, sometimes they grow extra big, and you have
Or
more
if you want to,
cones to trim and shit, and more leaf on it, then it's gonna take longer. Gosh, man, I've got PTSD or something. I swear, this shit cracks me, man. Gosh, I hate trimming. The
yeah,
one
but
time I spent 16 hours trimming 4 blue cheeses, and since then I've just had a hatred for it. It's too much, man.
and it's not always the size of your plant that causes you to have problems with trimming. Sometimes it's the fact that some strains are just leafier than others and take a little longer.
Mm-hmm. Right, so let's start with the most important thing, I think, right? When you've chopped the plant down, you harvested it. If you want to learn about harvesting, go check out the harvesting episode. That'll tell you everything you need to know about when to harvest, how to harvest, and that kind of thing. For this episode, it was specifically looking at trimming the plants. We're not going to be talking about drying and things like that. We're just going to be talking about the whole process of taking those leaves off. And so we want to begin by making sure that you're comfortable, because as we've mentioned, this is going to take a while, man. This trimming
Yes.
is a very long task, and plants can take an hour. Plants can take 10 minutes if they're micros. But damn,
Yeah, I've had those trims before.
mm-hmm. I haven't had
But
those, but I've always grown like big plants. I mean, you get them small micros, yeah. The one like when you done cup grows and things like that, just for fun.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Then it's just a quick trim.
yeah.
But damn. So uh, I would recommend for most of our listeners, of course, is to just go and listen to our episodes. Just load it up on iTunes or Spotify, whatever, and just listen to the shows as you're trimming. And you'll be there listening to cannabis content, entertaining cannabis content, you know, and you'll be able to trim your plants, and that's going to make it a lot easier. That's what you need, something to preoccupy you, and you're not going to be able to watch TV and shit because you're going to need your eyes for the actual trimming, but your ears are going to be free. So whether you're putting
Yeah.
music on, podcasts on, audio books, try and get. I listened to Treasure Island once while I was doing a trim. Took fucking
Uh,
ages.
I've been known to put movies that I've seen before on and just let
Mm.
that play because, well, I know it enough that it's going to keep me entertained to keep my mind off of what I'm doing. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you definitely want something that's going to keep your mind off of the, I hate to put it this way, drudgery of trimming these buds up because it can get a little bit
Yeah,
monotonous.
that's right. And the
So
longer the better,
anything
man. Mm.
anything to keep your mind a little bit occupied is it helps.
And YouTube shit as well. When you're watching YouTube and ads pop up all the time, you need to try and avoid things like that, because when you start
Oh,
trimming, your fingers are gonna get sticky, or your gloves are gonna get sticky. You don't want to be touching anything else, because that's just gonna get shit covered in sticky THC. So you don't want to be touching your mouse or your controller for your TV and things like that. So make sure you're
no.
proper set up before you actually
Yeah.
get stuck in with the trim.
Make sure you've got something to drink in case you get thirsty. Make sure if you're going to smoke or vape, make sure that's all prepared before time because, like Mackie says, once you start, your fingers are going to be nasty, and you don't want to take the time to have to do all that later. Do everything you
Hmm.
can first. Everything.
Yeah, and that includes setting up the drying space. Before you start trimming and all that kind of shit. Every time you trim a branch, you're gonna need to hang it somewhere. So it's a good idea to have your drying space ready for the trimmings to go into, or for the branches to go into after they've been trimmed. You know. What else can you cover the floor? I find it helps anyway. You get a dust sheet, for when people do painting. When you're painting the walls, you got them little sheets or tarpaulin, something like that. Just lay that across the carpet, and then you don't have to worry about it falling into a bin and things like that. It's just gonna land on the dust
Mhm.
sheet, so that just prevents shit from getting into the carpet and getting stuck in. And you can
Yeah.
save it up as well, and you can make some hash out of it. But we'll get to that later on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just trim on very large trays. I just lay the big
Right.
branches after they've been taken down and just lay it on a large tray and work off
Hmm.
the trays. That keeps everything off the floor for me. But
Hmm.
for me, trimming is a multiple stage process. Sometimes if you're taking a plant down, if you're doing a wet trim, you're going to do it in one step. You're going to trim it all up and then you're going to dry it. But
Hmm.
if we're going to do a dry trim, you're going to take it down. You're going to sort of trim it up a little bit and then you're going to hang it, then you're going to take it out and finish your trim.
Hmm.
So it gets a little more complicated as we start talking about this topic. Which way are you going to
Yeah.
go, wet or dry trim?
That's right, because that's the two main ways you're going to be able to trim your cannabis. There's the wet trim, like Monkey said, and there's the dry trim. And the wet trim is essentially you cut the plant down, take off a branch, and start trimming it. You take off all the fan leaves, all the sugar leaves, so it's just the bud left, and then you hang that bud up to dry. That's your wet trim. And then you have the dry trim, where you take the branch off the plant, or you take down the whole plant, whichever way it is. And sometimes people will take off the big fan leaves, but they'll leave the sugar leaves on. But some people even leave the fan leaves on, and they'll just hang it up straight away and let that shit just dry. And it takes
Mm-hmm.
much longer than it does to dry when you do it this way. But some people prefer it, say that because it increases the flavor, it keeps terpenes locked in, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't tried it before, try it, because it might be a good way for you to you might prefer it this way. So do a bit of experimenting next time you go to dry something. Trim some of it, don't trim some of it, see which one works out the best.
Yeah, in my environment, I've tried both, and then if I do a wet trim, I thought I would try it once because the buds, they seem to come out a little bit more manicured and nicer looking. But when you wet trim, the buds dry faster, and in my warmer environment down this far south, not a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's, to me, was my deciding factor, was how fast the buds are going to dry, and so I do a dry trim.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. But like Mackie says, try it yourself, see which one you like.
Yeah, that's it. Always experiment and see which suits you best, because everybody's different. But so let's say that the plant has been harvested, it's hanging, or the branches are hanging, ready to get trimmed. You're going to do the wet trim, right? Because if you're doing a dry
Mhm.
trim, you're just cutting off branches, you're hanging that, you leave it for a week, and we'll talk about the dry trim in a little bit. But the wet trim, which is the majority of growers, will do it this way. 90% of home growers are just going to do the wet trim because it's just much easier to handle the leaves when they're wet. If you after 2 or 3 days, when the moisture starts to get out of them, the leaves get all droopy. Trimming at that point is torture, man. You
Yes,
have
it
to
is.
like peel the leaf off the bud, then trim it, and oh god, it's horrible.
Yeah,
It hurts
the
my
middle
soul.
ground, the middle ground is definitely nowhere to trim in. You either do it wet or you do it dry. There's no middle ground, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, that's it. You can't do 4 days in. You either trim it when it comes down, like within the first day,
Uh-huh.
or you're doing it 2 weeks later. 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. So what else we got here? I just got distracted. Just let me fix this for Claude. Why does the stream of the chat look blurry? It shouldn't look blurry, mate. Just check on this little thing. You can click. It says settings on there, and you
Yeah, the
can
little gear wheel.
yeah. Oh,
Click
you
that
said
one. Yeah.
okay. It was me. Okay, yeah. Well,
Hmm.
there we go. Right. So we're talking about when the plant has been harvested. So you've put something on that you're gonna listen to for a while, or background noise, a movie, podcasts. I would recommend go and listen to the the Bob Lazar episode of Rogan. Whether you're a Rogan fan or not is beside the point. It's still a good interview. The one with Bob Lazar. Go listen to that. It's good. I enjoy listening to that one. It's fun. Just anything that you're interested in. A Christopher Hitchens debate. There's so much good stuff out there that you can listen to for a few hours and stay entertained while you're trimming these buds, because it is going to be a few hours. Prepare for a
Right.
few hours, and if you don't take a few hours, bonus. But prepare for a few fucking hours, man.
So we got to get our space ready now. We got
Mm,
everything in there. We got to get, what are we going to use to trim with? I've used many different types of devices to trim with. I've used scissors. I've used bonsai shears. I've used Fiskars type shears
mm-hmm.
and pruners. What do you use on a regular basis, Mackie?
Just normal scissors now, because
Uh-huh.
I don't even like thinking about it. I should really go and get better ones. But anytime that I have to think about trimming it, I just get PTSD. It's like I should go get some trimming scissors. What are you thinking about that for? Stop that. Stop that.
Well, I have to say that no matter what I've used to trim with all the different things, as long as they're sharp and sort of pointy,
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much will work for you there.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and get a few pairs as well. You don't just have
yes,
one. Because eventually, when you're trimming enough, the scissors are gonna start get covered in like the resins from the plants. You'll be able to make some scissor hash out of that later on, which we'll talk about. So it gets a bit sticky. It can, and it just becomes a pain in the ass. So it's easy to just grab another pair of scissors and just carry on straight away without having to stop, take a break, clean scissors with isopropyl and shit like that. Don't bother with none of that.
No, and while
Just
you're
get
at
a
it
few
there,
pairs. Hmm.
you got a few pairs of scissors out there, and go ahead and if you have a little razor blade that you can throw out there and maybe a small saucer, those are going to come in handy for that scissor hash later on. So put those on your space because you're going to want those later on.
Yeah, but
But
be
like
very
Mackie
careful, of
said,
course.
yeah, with razor blades, definitely be very, very careful. But you'll see exactly what we're going to use those for later on. But the multiple pairs of scissors will speed you up because yeah, they get dirt. Depending how good of a grower you are and how sticky your weed is, yeah, it can get really gummy really, really, really fast.
Hmm.
So go with that though. So yeah, we got the plant down. We're going to take it, and if you're wet trimming, like Mackie said, the idea is to get everything off of your buds, all the sugar leaves, all the fan leaves, everything. So only thing you're going to leave on your buds is the smokable parts of it. You can dry that two different ways. You can either take that whole branch now that it's dry, trimmed, and hang it, or you can cut those buds off the main stem and get a drying net, hang the drying net in your tent, and then put those individual buds on your drying net. Again, the deciding factor on whether you want to pursue this or not is that when you cut those buds off the main stalk and make them individual on the drying net, they're also going to dry even faster now. So if you're in a situation where you're fighting humidity and you're fighting temperatures, be careful if you try to do this. Sometimes those buds dry so fast that they may have a hay smell after a while. But those are your two choices on dry trim. Either dry them on the stem or cut them out and put them on nets and let them dry that way. Take your pick. Either one of them's fine. They work good.
Yeah, because this is another thing people do, isn't it? They like to trim off the buds and take them off the main branches and let them dry like that. And
Yep, on the nets.
I just don't like doing that, man. I like to keep them as whole as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I would take a bud with a little bit of stem on. Make sure when you cut it as well, when you harvest it, make sure it's at a branch so you can hang the branch on a piece of string or something. It just makes the whole process easier. Make sure you leave like a little branch on the side. And then you're going to trim but what I do is I will trim off as many of the fan leaves as I can first because you always miss some. That's the way it goes. You just you'll turn the bud over and see, oh, you missed a couple of these fan leaves here. But they go first because they're just easy to trim off. And then just go over again to trim off as many of the small leaves as you can. You're trying to get the base of the leaf every time as well. Try and do that as much as possible. And eventually it's going to be difficult to do that. There's going to be some leaves where you can't get to the bottom of it without pulling open the bud a bit. You don't want to do that. So then you can just trim that little bit of leaf off. Trim around the bud to get rid of that bit of leaf. But try and get as many leaves as possible from the base of the actual leaf.
Right.
Remove as much as possible of it. Yeah. That's how I roll. And just hang it up as the whole bud then. Fuck chopping off little bits and that. That's I don't know, man.
And so what do you do? Hang that for how long?
About 7 days.
Okay, about a week. And then that should be dry enough at that point to put in jars.
Maybe.
So we're going to do a snap test, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay. So after 7 days, we'll try and see if we take one of the small buds and try and twist it, break it off of the stem. If it snaps cleanly, we know that the buds are dried and ready for the jars.
Yeah, simple, really.
Simple there. So then we remove the buds off the main stem and put just the buds in the jars, right? Discarding or using the main stem for whatever, but we don't put those in. Do you put the stems in the jar?
Yeah, sometimes if the bud
Really?
fits. Yeah.
Okay. See, I like to buck my buds down to individual buds because I've had one or two jars go bad on me.
Right.
Back in the day. So I much prefer having them in what I've considered manageable sizes to make sure that all the moisture can leave them.
Yeah, it's like when I get to the point where I can't see stem. When it's patchy, the bottom ones that they'll come off. I won't put like an inch of stem in. I'll trim it close to the actual bud itself, but there'll be stem inside that. I don't break off every one though. I like to leave them in there till they're dry.
Okay.
You know, crack them off when I'm smoking them. Really, that's the way it goes.
That's the
But
different way of doing it than I've done it. Then. But I'm a dry trimmer, which
right.
completely different process altogether
Yeah,
anyway.
so what's your process? I mean, because that's pretty much the process for well, there's more we can add here for the wet trimming. You know, so
Yeah.
you've trimmed off the leaves and it's all nicely well trimmed. And you can trim off the buds if you want to, lay them on a net and let it dry. But most people would hang it up at this point and just let it dry for a few days there. But
Right.
it's best when you're handling the buds. Either make sure your hands are really fucking clean. You don't want to contaminate the buds with anything. But you have to be very careful not to damage the trichomes as you're handling the buds as well. So try and just hold it in one place, maybe by the base of the stem if you can do that. But that gets really
Especially
fucking meticulous, man.
especially if you're wet trimming, because those trichomes are
Hmm.
even more delicate when they're wet.
So try not to touch the buds too much, and you're either going to do this with your clean hands, but it's better to use latex gloves if you can, because any of the resins that the resin heads that get off the plant and gets onto the gloves are going to stick there, and then when you're finished with all your trimming and stuff, you can freeze these gloves for I don't know, like an hour or something, and then you'll be able to get the resin that have been produced on the gloves, you'll be able to just peel it off nice and easy and make a nice little bit of scissor hash.
Uh-huh.
So, and
Hmm.
it's easy to do that. Easy to do that. And you know, it's just a little bonus for the torture you go through when you're doing all this trimming.
Yeah, the scissor hash is your reward for going through the jail term.
Mm-hmm. And that can be some good shit too.
Yeah. So my
Yeah. So.
process is quite a bit different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I do a dry trim on it, and I like to hang. I mostly grow in a manifold style, which gives me nice long colas to play with. Not a lot of small buds. And that's my first secret weapon for trimming is that I grow nice big long buds, which means I only have to trim 8 nice long buds at trim time. And that's a whole lot faster than trimming small individuals. So that helps me a lot. But what
Mm-hmm.
I'll do is I'll remove each one of the 8 mains off, and then I'll while it's in my hand, I will cut off any of the big fan leaves that have no trichomes on it, or even very minimal trichomes on it. Those just get removed, and then I'll hang the 8 mains up in the dry tent at 60% humidity, anywhere from 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to keep it as low as I can, but unfortunately, depending on the time of the year, I can't always do that. So, but anyway, they hang there until my controller basically tells me that the humidity is starting to drop and stay below the 60%. That tells me that the buds have given me what they need to give me. And they come out the tent. At that point, I'll take them out one at a time, and I'll remove the buds. I'll buck the buds one at a time off the long stems. And then I'll trim each bud dry right there,
Right.
removing
Right.
any sugar leaf and all this stuff now that I'm going to remove, because everything I left had some kind of sugar leaf on it. All this
Nice.
trim is going to be collected now, and this is going to be going for hash making mostly.
And it's
So
so easy at that point as well, isn't it? When it's really dry, you don't even need to snip with the scissors. You just run the scissors down the leaf, and because they're dry, they just break and flake off, man. It's
you can do
easy.
that, but I'm kind of like you with the dry trim though. I like to get as much as I can off of it. So I'm not afraid to taking the point and kind of pushing it down in there to get the leaves off a little bit
Hmm.
cleaner, because I have enough that I can do this with, and I'm not worried about losing a small amount. I do find that the buds are less harsh if I get all of that sugar leaf off of them. It
Hmm.
they seem like they smoke better, but it's
Yeah.
a lot more work. But again, this is a hobby that I love to do, so I don't mind putting the effort in on it like that though. But after I get everything trimmed in and to put into jars, and it's the put put the meters in the jars and basically watch the humidity, trying to 60% or lower. I like to go between 55 and 60, 58, 59 is absolutely where I love it. But it's a simple process that way. It's just knock off the big pieces, dry them in a tent for about 10 days to 2 weeks if you're lucky,
Nice.
They'll keep the terpenes real nice right there. So, and then just, buck them off the main stalk, one bud at a time as you're going up. I usually leave the tips because like back in, you're talking about, when they get to the top, the buds get smaller, but they get tighter together. So that cluster on the top, yeah, I'll leave the cluster that's, about half the size of my fist. That goes in the jar hole because
Mm.
those are the prizes. That's the tops. My gosh, you can't really mess those up, you know.
Yeah.
That's your pride and joy,
You know,
those.
you trim the fucking big ones real good, but then them little popcorn buds that you get occasionally, and you're like, do we even need to trim this fucker?
But that's why I mainline, because I don't even have those anymore. I mean, those go away fast, but yeah, that's if you're talking about trim gel, your trim gel is much worse if you haven't culled your small buds during your grow. So,
Yeah, man.
but Leo was asking there, he said, what about finger trimming, where you're basically rubbing your hand across the dry buds and knocking them off? And that's what Mackie, you were talking about that. But my answer to that would be, it's fine. And I have done it. And I'll admit, toward the end of a trim, I am doing a lot of that because, like, even though you're trying to make it beautiful, you get tired. One of those deals like
Yeah.
that. But I would prefer to get those sugar leaves all the way off if I can.
There's some other things to mention there as well before you start doing this whole trimming thing. You know, make sure you got a few joints rolled, man. Be ready. Comfortable place to sit is important as well. Something where you can, you know, good back support. You're gonna be leaning forward a lot. So when you
I
lean
like to
back,
get up
you
and stretch every now and then, man. I got to do
yeah,
it.
you have to, man. You have to. You fucking don't want to get blood clots and shit because you're sitting there for 2 hours without moving your legs.
This is your
Yeah.
hobby. It's supposed to be kind of fun. So do the best you can to make it fun. I know nobody likes to trim. People, I've heard it many times, but hey, make the best out of it.
No, and for
You
new
get to
growers,
smell
it
your
is
weed,
fun.
man.
You know, for the new growers, it is fun. It's something you haven't done before. But when you fucking like, I don't know how many years in, I'm about 13, 14 years in now. And you know, that's hundreds of plants, man. Yeah.
I know it.
And
Now let's
it's
talk
just
about
so
these
much trimming.
gunky scissors and stuff that you got now. See, I use nitrile gloves when I trim because, like Mackie, I'd rather get it on the gloves than on my fingers when I'm trimming. So you will get a buildup on those. And sometimes during the trim, if they're particularly sticky buds, sometimes I'll even change gloves halfway through, but I'll keep those gloves. But after your scissors get all sticky and gooey, take that razor blade and use the razor blade to scrape the resin off the scissors. You'll find that it's a pretty good amount. And I like to do this several times, get all the scissors, scrape it off. Once I get a little ball of this resin on there, I've learned that I can take the ball of resin and then take it with my gloves with the resin on the fingers. And if I push the ball of resin on the finger and then pull it off, most of the time it takes the resin right off the gloves without even freezing them. So you can clean my gloves just with the ball of resin that came off the scissors. And now I got a big ball of resin. So I can end up with like a couple grams of finger hash just off of reasonable trim, just by saving all that stuff. And boy, you talk about a treat. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Drop
And
that
remember
into
as well, there was a point which we mentioned before about dry trimming. That's trimming the plant when it's dried. When you're wet trimming it, when you clip them leaves off, then the plant is essentially gonna bleed some of that chlorophyll onto the buds. When the water comes out of the plant, it will drip onto the buds a little, and that's gonna add like chlorophyll and stuff to your buds, which are gonna make the smoke harsh. So when you do the dry trim, but when you're actually trimming all the leaves, it's all dry and there's not going to be moisture coming onto the buds, so that can improve the smoothness of it as well, right? And I think we brought that up on the harvesting or the drying episode.
Don't remember that one.
Yeah, I've heard that brought up before. I can't remember who said it. But it was a good point. But yeah, and the finger trimming thing, like you said, that monkey. I think it means when it's wet as well, because I do that sometimes. Like I'll pull off the bigger fan leaves because that just makes it fucking slow. It speeds up the process a little bit, but only a little bit. You know, because you can only really do that with the fan leaves. If you're doing that with the sugar leaves on the buds, you're gonna damage your buds. That's not what you want to do. You know, you gotta be very careful. So you just take your time and trim, man. And there's a pair of scissors which I used to use. I don't have any of them right now, but I need to get some more of those. And they're spring loaded, so you press it in and it'll spring back out by itself. Get a pair of those, man. That reduces 50% of the work you're gonna have to do. You can have a spring loaded pair of scissors that just opens by themselves. And you just snip. Makes it so much easier. So they're used when you're sewing things, you know, to snip thread and things like that. Those kind of scissors. They're fucking great, man. Get some of those.
I've got mixed feelings on spring-loaded tools.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've used hand tools all my life, and after a while, you develop a certain way to drop a finger and work. I don't know. It's hard to describe. There's a certain way you hold them so that you don't need the spring anymore. But I've gotten used to, because unfortunately there were no if you buy in trimming scissors, most of them are spring loaded. So I got used to it after a while. So I use them now spring loaded, but either way, well, I've used these Japanese bonsai inspired ones at first, and they don't have any kind of a spring in them at all, and didn't have any problem at all with that. It just it's technique. Whatever, you know, if you find that your hands cramp because you have to constantly pull the spring in, get one without a spring. If you're finding that you're having trouble opening it, go the other way. Use
That's
your
right,
gear,
man.
whatever you got, man, whatever
Yeah.
you want.
Make sure you got your drinks on hand, smokes on hand. Get some snacks, some you know, high energy snacks, man, because you're gonna be there for a while.
Yeah, and there
If you haven't trimmed yet, you underestimate how long it's gonna take you. I can tell you that.
there are gadgets on the market that people will try and sell you to help you trim, to make it faster for you. There's things called it, I think one was called a trim bag. Basically, it's a like a big bubble bag, except the mesh on it is much bigger. And then you put the buds, with the dried buds in there and shake it, and basically it rips off all the leaves and stuff. But to me, you're also going to rip off some trichomes. So that scares me. Bowl trimmers, you know, I mean, yeah, those, if you're having trouble trimming, that's fine. But again, it's, you know, it's violent. It knocks your buds around. It's going to ruin some more of those trichomes. If you really want to do it to keep the best product, hand trimming is the way to go.
Nice. It's just it takes so long, man. I think the most important thing for like to wrap it up, to make it the most important points, to have some really good sharp scissors. And sharp it is important, man. If you're using blunt scissors, it's a completely different type of torture. You know, at least with sharp scissors, you stand a chance. You know, the leaves will trim for a while, but once they start to lose that sharpness, they don't trim so good, man. And sometimes you have to come back and trim leaves twice to get them off and shit like that. Make sure the scissors are sharp. Yeah, you need that. Wear gloves is preferable, but of course you don't have to. It's just preferable. If you do wear gloves, then you're going to be able to save all of the resin heads that you accidentally break, and you'll be able to make a little bit of hash out of it. Yeah, when
Yeah.
you, this is another. I would keep around when I'm doing some trimmings, just some isopropyl spray, because I have loads of it anyway, and I'm not using gloves most of the time, so I'll just spray a little bit of ISO onto my hands, and that breaks down all this shit, all the THC. I say shit, but it's definitely not shit. You know,
Man,
it's just
that's
making
gonna,
your fingers sticky and all that.
yeah, it's gonna dry your skin though over a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, you only do it a couple of times over the whole trim, though.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, like don't keep your hands completely soaked. That's a bad idea. But, you know, if you're taking a break and you want to go have a cup of tea, or you want to, you know, just roll a joint, then your fingers are going to be really sticky. And the best way to get the stick off, I have found, is to just use a little bit of ISO. Nice and
I'm
easy,
just
man.
thinking about somebody trying to light a joint with ISO on their hands, like, woo.
Ooh, no, it evaporates really quick. Don't worry. And then wash your hands properly after. You know, it's just spray it on onto your fingertips and shit, and it just gets the THC off easy. Not good for your skin though, Mackie. No, I don't mind. It's not that bad for my skin.
Yeah.
You know,
I
people
can
put it in
remember.
it's in alcohol rub. You know, when you clean your hands with that shit.
Yeah, but it's also that alcohol rub's also got moisturizers to help, you know, undo what
Mm-hmm.
the alcohol is doing. So it's
Yeah.
different stuff though. No, I've done it back in the pandemic when everybody was going nuts at buying protective gear. You couldn't even find gloves. So yeah, I was trimming barehanded, and I had to do exactly what you're talking about with the
Mm-hmm.
alcohol rag, cleaning your hands afterwards. Not ideal. I'd rather not, but yeah, it'll work. You have to.
Mm-hmm.
When
And
you
just
get all of that sticky on your hands though, and you try and roll it off and try and make charas out of it. I mean, it takes so much dirt and skin off with it. It's like, do I really want to smoke this stuff now?
yeah, I wouldn't smoke the stuff after. No, no.
No.
Only off the scissors. I would off the scissors, but not off
Well,
my
the
hands.
scissors and gloves are fine because again,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not got skin and all the other stuff in it, but the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the stuff kind of scared me a bit.
Yeah, and then just being comfortable, man. You have to just try and understand that you're gonna be there for a while. You know, you're not gonna go out. You can't go to the shop. You know, it can't be like, oh, I need a bag of Maltesers. You can't just pop to the shop and go get a bag of Maltesers because you're gonna stink. You're gonna have little leaf lying all over your trousers that you don't even know about.
Mhm.
You know, and you're gonna get a little bit nose blind, so you don't know how bad you stink, but you really gonna stink if you leave the house, man. You have to
You're
fully
right.
change your clothes, have a shower, make sure that there's
That's me.
no THC on your hands and shit. Completely changed, and you're still gonna stink then, you know.
I run errands before I start doing the trim, or I don't do it
Mhm.
at all that day. It's one of those deals
Mhm.
because yeah, you'll need all new clothes
Yeah.
on you, and you'll definitely need hair, everything. Wash it all because yeah, that stuff sticks everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's really one of those things you have to prepare for. You know, you need the day off work, man. You can't go into work on the same day. You know, just make sure nobody's going to be disturbing your house. Just needs to be a whole day off kind of thing. And this is just for like 4 plants. If you got 4 plants in a 4x4, and you've grown those, filled out your 4x4, you're looking like 4 or 5 ounce from each plant. That's going to be around a 10 to 12 hour trimming session. So you need to put that time aside and be ready for it.
Mhm.
It's hurtful, man. It hurts when you've been sitting there for 10 hours and you look at you've 3 plants through and you've still got 1 plant to go. You're like, fuck, won't it just stop? Fuck,
I feel it,
it's
man.
horrible, man. It's horrible shit. But you know,
The worst
you'd rather
one.
be in that position than have no weed, don't it? You know.
True, true.
Hmm.
I mean, the worst one I ever had was the LA peyote Kush grow I did. I had an issue in the tent during it with a light leak, and it caused the plants to become a little more extra leafy. 2 plants trimming took me 4 days, and it was like, my gosh, it was the most miserable trim ever because the buds were extra leafy. They had sugar leaves all up around them and was wrapped every one of them. So you had to cut all these little small buds off to get around them. Just took forever. And a lot of times, I mean, that is one way that I choose cultivars nowadays is by how hard they are to trim. If they're a pain, I won't grow
Mm-hmm. Mission, man, mission.
them. Yeah.
Right. Still, it's worth it. Yeah, it takes so long, man. It takes so long, and it's hard to decide which way to do it as well. The wet and the dry trim. You know, for me, it's I don't really grow it enough for it to last long enough. But if so, you know, I want to get shit dried so it's ready to smoke. But if I had
Yeah.
time to leave it to the extra week to dry with dry trim, I'd go for that method.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know people who don't just do what I would refer to as a rough dry trim. You know, basically take the dry plant out of the tent, shake off as
Mm.
much of the sugar leaf and fan leaf as they can, and basically just throw it into a bucket or a tub. And then as they consume it, they remove what they want.
Yeah.
That's the lazy man's way of doing it, but it will work.
Yeah, it works. But as you brought up the top there, it reminded me that there's also different devices you can use for trimming, like these trim bags and
Yeah.
there's actual big trimmers you can get. Right, you throw the buds in and it trims off the whole thing. There's some blades circling, and though they are nice, they're not gonna do anywhere near as good of a job as you with just a pair of scissors is gonna do.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's being home growers. You know, we're not producing a huge amount. So, though it takes a good few hours, it's better to just do that in a few hours rather than if you get yourself a trimming machine, you're going to lose sections of the buds. You know, you're going to lose more than you want to.
Mhm.
You're just more
Yeah.
accurate if you do it yourself with scissors and you'll lose less.
Lots of home growers take a lot of pride in what they produce and want
Hmm.
to show off the best product you have. There's just nothing compared to a good hand trim. Finish off
Hmm.
your product, polish it off, give it that bag appeal you're looking for.
Yeah. True 420 in the chat says the trim bin is dope. The Keith catcher screen at the bottom makes amazing hash. Cool, man. Cool.
Mhm.
As it, I've never
Yeah,
used them. I don't like the idea of it, but you know, each to their own, man. If it works for your grow, then it fucking works, man. Just do it, you know.
yeah. I just use a regular tray and a credit card to scrape the keef off the bottom of the tray when I'm done. Don't know if I get all of it or quite as much, but the I just have issues storing single use tools and products like that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Like Mackie says, if it works for you, fantastic. But it didn't
That's
work
right,
for
man.
me.
Try these things. I just think because I'm only ever growing 4 plants at a time, really, only harvesting 4 at a time. Just
Mhm.
you know, using a pair of scissors and shit. That does fine. Though I complain and it takes a good few hours, I'd rather do that than save a couple of hours by using a trim machine. You know, you just have to try and enjoy the time. You know, consider it, like I say, imagine putting an audio book on and having an excuse to just sit there for 10 hours listening to it. You know,
Yeah.
You know, take it as an opportunity, man. That's what you have to do. And there's so much good stuff out there for you to listen to now. You know, there's loads of our interviews. We've got over 100 interviews for you to listen to where you do your trimming. You know, there's a lot out there, man. All completely free as well. So that's what I would recommend. So to summarize this shit, you know, the plant's already harvested, it's hanging, and you're trimming chunks off. Make sure that you've got 5 or 6 joints rolled. Make sure you got some podcast, music, audiobook, a film you've seen before, just playing in the background for background noise. Make sure you lay something across the ground, like a tarpaulin or a dust sheet, just to catch anything that falls on the floor. You don't want it sticking to your carpet. Get a few pair of scissors. Spring-loaded ones are good. You know, the Fiskars that people have mentioned, they can be good too. Just figure out what's going to work well for you. You know, everybody's got different size hands. You might be left-handed, right-handed. You know, you're going to use different scissors are going to work better for you, maybe. So experiment. Get a selection, a couple of each one, and you know, just prepare yourself for the long run. If you got the better tools, then you'll do a better job. Yeah, man. Dry trimming or wet trimming, that's just a decision you're going to have to make. When you're dry trimming as well, if you've chosen that technique, you can get this thing. Is it called a trim brush or something? Have you seen this, Monkey?
No, I'm assuming it's to sweep the trichomes up with, though.
No, it's just you brush it over the dry buds and it takes off all of the leaf, so
Oh,
it like trims
no.
with a little brush. Yeah, I don't know about those things. It's up to you. Try it if you want to. You can buy
Yeah,
those
I'm
things.
afraid that again that brush is going to be knocking off the trichome heads.
Mm-hmm,
That's the one
mm-hmm.
thing that I love about doing hand trim on dry trim hand trim
Yeah,
is when you finish, your buds will literally sparkle in the light because you preserved all of those outer trichomes. You haven't
mm-hmm.
damaged anything at all. I love
Yeah.
that.
And South Celia just added there as well. Trim bin just makes it ergonomic. I can't trim for hours without one. Yeah, that's it, man. You just got to decide what's good for you. You know?
Yep. If you got a problem, try something or ask around. Somebody will have a solution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, what else? Anything to summarize up trimming there, Monkey? I think that's about everything, isn't it?
Mhm.
Make sure you are prepared. You know, packed lunch if you can. Anything that's gonna make the whole process easier, do that. You know what that's gonna be for you. You know, just make sure you got the whole day free, and you've got everything prepared. Prior planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. So, you know, make sure you
Yep.
properly planned everything out, man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Attitude means everything, guys. I hate to say it this way, but if you think trimming's going to suck, guess what? It's going to suck. If you go in with a
Yeah.
better attitude, you can have a better day.
No, I've tried it. I'm gonna love this trimming session. Hour later, please make it stop.
But if you go in saying that this is going to suck, it's going to suck from the get go. I promise.
Yeah, well, it's just
Attitude,
at the
attitude
end of the
makes life
day,
change. Yeah.
you have to do it. So whether it sucks or not, you just have to fucking do it. No one else is gonna do
And
it.
when you're done, you've got jars of weed in your
Mm-hmm.
cupboard. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's the deal right there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the best part of it. So yeah, if it takes a day, that's fine. But think about it, you're gonna have months of weed now after that.
That's right. And of course, when you're done, scrape up that fucking scissor hash and stick it in a joint because you deserve it.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I always
So.
have to debate. My missus comes in and always scopes out that ball of scissor hash, and I have to decide: am I going to let her have this one, or is this one mine?
Yeah. It
I
comes
get
in
the
licking her
control though.
lips.
She loves that.
Is that for me?
Oh, which one
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. Good shit, man. You
Don't
know,
worry, Monkey's got his hash stored away, you know, hidden, my little stash.
hmm so yeah, just like everything else, if you have any questions about trimming, you need any help, you can find us over on Percy'sGrowroom.com or over on our Discord server. We're always happy to help. So if you do have any questions or need any advice with anything, then give us a shout, man. It's always good to hear from the listeners. But
That's
for
right.
those who are about to trim, we salute you. Enjoy.
All
Let's
right,
do some
Mr.
listener mail.
ACDC.
Sorry, Monkey.
I said, go, okay, Mr. ACDC.
Yeah, it's one of those transposable quotes you can use for many different things. But we have just a couple of questions here. One from Billy. And this is something which I've thought about before. You know, he says, if Billy Bonds, you know, this Billy the Sock Bonds, that guy. If cannabis growers treated their health like they did their plants, would they be more or less healthy? What do you think, Lucky?
I don't know. I think cannabis growers, I can't, that's a big, huge question.
Yeah, it is. But I
Hard
think
to
if
say.
people paid attention to what they ate as much as they paid attention to what their plant needs, they would be much healthier. They wouldn't be like you wouldn't get some foods and you'd be like, I ain't feeding that to my plant. But it's not necessarily the same when you get food, is it? It's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna eat that. You smell the
And your friend's
fried
going,
butter
"You're
in
gonna
it.
eat that? My gosh, you're gonna eat that?"
Look at that fried insect ass from the sea.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, you know, I think especially when people first start out, they take a lot of they pay a lot of attention to their plants, you know. And I think you just get bored sometimes and not pay attention to your body so much. As long as it's running okay, you're okay. It's only when you really have health problems that you pay real close attention to what you're consuming, right?
When we get sick, that's when we start thinking about what we're doing to our bodies. Not
Mm,
until we get sick. We take it for
yeah,
granted until it's too late.
yeah. Unfortunately, you know, like how many people out there take vitamins every day? Is it even necessary? Do they even fucking work? You know, are they all just snake oil in the first place? How many people try and get that 5 fruit and veg every day that the government recommend? Thank you, government, for keeping us safe, by the way.
While I don't count them, I think I'm pretty good with the fruit and veg now. The rest of
Hmm.
it, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, man. I'm sure everybody can take more care of themselves, you know, and just try and treat
Yeah.
yourself like you're as a cannabis plant, you know.
And that's kind of one reason why we encourage these people to grow their own cannabis, because if you want a healthy medicine, you know exactly what's in this medicine.
Hmm.
So, like Billy says, you want to be, would you be healthier if you took care of yourself like you're taking care of your plants? Well, in a way you are, because you're taking care of that plant to take care of yourself.
Hmm. Yeah, man, it's good for you, you know,
That's what they say.
mentally and physically. And Leo just put a Q there saying, "Weed smoothies." Yeah, what the
Hmm.
fuck not? You know, if you've got
I've
enough.
known I've known people who use the fan leaves, the very young fan leaves in smoothies.
Mm,
They're and salads as well.
yeah, man. Is it?
The
Yeah,
older
salads.
ones
I've
get,
seen the salads. Yeah. Mm,
yeah, they have to be young leaves though. The older ones kind of get a little bit, cellulose and crunchy.
yeah, and full of chlorophyll.
Yeah.
Mm. But yeah, man, have some weed smoothies. People do it a lot, don't they? Well, you see it often. I've seen it quite a few times, man. People just use the fan leaves as well, specifically the fan leaves, and not even the sugar leaves and shit. But using the fan leaves doesn't get you high because you don't have the trichomes on, or at least not as many. But it still
That's a
has the
great
properties of cannabis. Yeah.
way to use your stuff that you're cutting off during the lollipop if you want to do weed
Mm,
smoothies. That's a perfect time for it.
that's right. Or add them to your worm farm if you have a worm farm. You know.
They'll eat it too, and
Mm.
they won't get high, will they?
Man, the worms fucking love it. You know. I did a big trim a while ago. And there was a shitload of leaf and stem for these worms to eat. The missus gave it to the worms. She came back a few days later. She's like, that's all gone. Have you got any more? I can't just fucking trim half my plants off again. You know? But damn, they just fucking love ganja. Damn.
Yep.
But yeah, random tangent there. Yes, take care of your health, everybody. And he also asked, what thickness of socks do you use in winter? Yeah, that's Billy. You know, sometimes we can just be like, who asked this question, and people would just know from the question that I was playing zombies the other day with Billy as well, and I mentioned, do you think that some people listen to the show and think that Billy is just a made-up character that we bring up when we want to ask dirty questions, you know? You
A
know, he's
figment
like,
of our
is he an actual
imagination.
person? I mean, you know what Billy would say, you know. Yeah, but yeah, Billy is an actual real person, everybody. Right, so Turbo has a question here. It's an interesting question, and it's to do with trimming as well.
Hmm.
If you know prior to trimming what you're going to use the flower for, do you use different trimming techniques? Uh, Rolling joints versus vaping, making hash versus pressing rosin, or do you just trim it up at this trim it up the same every time?
Would be a difference there. But if I'm going to be making hash, I'm not so much worried about what it looks like or long term. It's going to basically be put in the freezer for making a bubble hash for me.
Hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really worried about making that too pretty or anything like that. And
Right.
if I'm going to make extracts as well, I've heard Bubble Hawk talk about this. He'll take it if he wants the best extract. He will freeze the live plant, then dry sift the live plant, and then press the trichome heads to get the best of the best. So it all depends. You're right. It all depends how you're going to process your plant, what you're going to use it for, as to how you're going to do the trim, or even if you're going to do the trim at all.
Yeah, you know, if you don't need to.
No, if you're just
Yeah.
going to make extracts here, you don't need to be doing
Mm-hmm.
all the fancy stuff if you're just extracting.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. I mean, the reason why people trim the buds the way that we do is it dries faster. You know, when it's when you wet trim it and it's all nicely trimmed up, it'll dry faster that way because there's less moisture to evaporate from the whole lot of the plant. So, but not only that, but it has a better bag appeal. But people are used to seeing buds without the leaf on it, and they'll be like, "Oh, that looks like some nice bud." But if it's dry trim and it's still got some of the leaves on it, if I just dried up and cold over the bud, then it doesn't look as nice. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. You know, so if it's going to be just flower and you want it to look nice, then trim it. But if you're going to make hash, then no one's going to look at the buds. You know what I mean? So you don't need to make sure that they're all trimmed up nice and pretty. And keeping
Nope.
them tip leaves on, that will give you a better yield with the hash at the end of it, because you're going to get them trichome heads fall off the leaf as well. So that's going to be a big step.
Yep.
Yeah, what was you saying? Yeah, so just choose the right technique. But damn, yeah, if you don't have to trim, then don't fucking trim, man. Mm-mm. Sparky asking in the chat there, random question. What the hell is going on with food and inflation in the UK? Two guys flew to Poland to buy groceries and saved money. What the fuck? It's bad here in the UK right now. I don't know if you've heard me say, Sparky. But yeah, things are so expensive, and the government keep telling us 7% inflation. You know, everything's gone up by just 7%. You lying fuckers. This is not 7%. It depends on the product, but we're looking at 100% more than, you know, hundreds of percents on some products. It's ridiculous, man. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I wouldn't surprise if people are able to go to Poland and save money with their groceries. Yeah, is it not happening in the States, Monkey? You having big inflation over there in the States?
No, we've had some prices on grocery inflation, but nothing near what, I mean, I wouldn't go to Mexico to get groceries. No, no way.
Mm. Yeah, just traveling to Mexico to get groceries. Damn. Man, yeah, it's just going a bit crazy here in the UK. That's just the way it is. I think everybody's just about dragging themselves along, you know. They're just, but I don't know. It gets concerning sometimes, but you just try and ignore it and get on with, you know, your everyday life, you know, work and pay the bills and do that kind of shit. But it's scary, man. It's scary. Things are very expensive. The missus tells me every time we go shopping, you know. She'll be looking at products on the shelves and be like, "Look, that's double the price, man. 7% inflation, 7%." Lying fuckers. Apparently, it's going down, but I don't believe them because yeah, you don't
Well,
see it.
inflation is going down, but prices aren't going down.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
They're just going up at a slower rate.
Yeah. And at the same time, because everything's going up, then some businesses are putting up wages, not many, and you know those that do also have to charge a higher cost for their products. So everything just keeps increasing. and quickly too. It's madness, man. But yeah, that's a whole different subject altogether. Yeah. £5 for a head of lettuce here, says 4 plants. Damn, sorry, $5 because it's in Canada. Madness. Yeah, that's an interesting way to finish off the grow guide section there. I think that's it's all the list of mail questions we have. It's all the things that we can say about trimming. Is there any cues I'm missing in the chat? I'm just having a look. Yeah, what do you think of finger trimming? We covered that one. Is there any more questions? Does anybody have questions? Just having a quick scroll. Making sure we haven't missed any. I think, oh, weed smoothies. Yeah, we've got Leo question. Let's have a look at what went on in that poll. 55 to 45. Keep it like this. Okay.
Easy enough.
Yeah. There we go. People like it. Yeah, it's transitions in between the episodes nicer as well with the download and things like that. It does work out nicer. We get more views because there's 2 videos, you know, and each video is shorter. There's loads of good reasons why to keep it like this. I was just wondering how people feel about it. What about Keith after trim? Says Sparky. What are you saying there, Monkey?
Well, for me, I just press it into hash. I mean, like I scrape my trim trays with a credit card. If I feel like that's not enough, I'll get a little something more aggressive, like a blade of some kind like that. But that's all I do is pick up the keef that way. That's usually something that if I'm lazy and I don't feel like cleaning my trays, I can hand it to the missus and say, "There's keef on here. You want it?" "Oh yeah, not a problem." She'll clean my trays if she gets to keep the keef.
Oh yeah, I don't even save any keef. You mean keef falls off the plants and just lands in places?
When you trim it, of course, some of the keef will fall off. Some of the trichome heads will fall off of the buds.
What?
It happens. So yes, if you take your hand down there and feel it, it's kind of sandy on the trail, just slightly, not like major sandy, just a small amount. But it's enough to, when I'm done, I can hand her the trays and she'll scrape the trays, throw it in a bowl, and she's happy. So, and I don't have to clean the trays that way. So that's how I use that keef. I use the keef to get my trays cleaned.
God damn. I didn't realize that. I thought I thought you just all gets gathered up on the scissors and in your hands and stuff.
No, feel whatever you're trimming on after you finish that next time, and you'll feel it. There's just a little sticky sandy stuff on whatever your surface is.
I don't need more shit to be dealing with trimming. I've already had enough.
Now you're telling him there's one more step. See what you did?
No, fuck's sake. God, oh man, I just hate to think of the amount of hours I've spent trimming. It's absolutely shocking, man.
You take a big old hit of keef, and yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. Keef sweat. You start choking and sweating at the same time from that. It hits you so hard. Oh man.
Nice. Yeah, so I think that's it for trimming, everybody. If you've got any tips and tricks that you think we could share with people when it comes to trimming their cannabis, how to make it easier for them, anything like that, then let us know. Send us messages over on percysgrowroom.com or start a thread and things like that. But I think that is everything covered right there. What do we have for next week's grow guides? I can't even remember. Let me have a quick check. Companion planting for natural pest control. Yeah, so that's gonna be interesting. We're gonna talk about some companion plants. That'll be episode 90. Then we just got 10 more to go to hit that level 100. So if you have any suggestions for topics of grow guides that we can cover in the future, let us know, and we'll add them to the list. Well, I think that's it. Should we go to the outro, Monkey? Are you ready to go?
Let's do the outro. Yes.
Let's do it. Oh, the music ain't playing. Hold on, everybody. Need music.
Rookie mistakes.
Here we go. Fading. Oh no, and that music's starting too. Oh no. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Professional fade. That was the only thing professional about it there, I think. Just all these different music starting off all over the place. Damn. Yes, a damn good show. damn good show. A professional outro. Nice. Yeah, just, trimming. It's a pain in the ass. I hope everybody can, DJ is too high. You know what I'm saying, Truth? You know what I'm saying? Gosh, sack the DJ. When I was at a party the other day, a family party, because sometimes you have these get-togethers with the family and shit. Oh, God, and the DJ was so bad. Like, stopping songs halfway through. And like, God damn. Yeah, shit the bed at the end. Mackie, so pro until that point. No, I'm saying this is truth. I kind of agree there, Backblast. Yeah.
Can't keep him straight forever, brother. It is what it is.
That's right. We try. It gets edited and sounds really professional.
We fix it in post.
That's right. Fix it in post. That's how we roll. But yeah, thanks to everybody for being here. Thank you for downloading the show. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't done that. And maybe try and share the show. That always helps. I know it's difficult for many of us to share cannabis-related content. But if you have the ability to do that, then that always helps. If everybody brought a friend to each show, we would have the population of the planet listening to this show by now. You know what I'm saying?
How did you do that math?
Well, everything doubles every time. So 50 doubled, 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600. It goes up and up every time. For the last 3 years, week by week, yeah, we're definitely hitting the population of the planet. Yeah,
I'll have to do that. What is what route do I need to reach the population of the planet? Okay, I'll have to
just double every time. Yeah. Double. Great show for sure. Appreciate the panel's hard work. Thanks, Backblast. Yeah, I think that's everything though. I think we're good. Everybody, the homework this week is to go and see how many times you need to double something before it adds up to 8 billion. But that'll work. So yeah,
8 billion is what we're going with. So it's going to be 2 to the x equals 8 billion, and so you got to solve for x in this one.
What is the x? What is the x? Figure it out for next week. But yeah, the logo up on Percy's. Somebody asked about the logo on Percy's. What's with the logo? I can't remember who asked. But November and Sunday is coming up here in the UK. I think it's something that we all celebrate, and because they are Armistice Day from World War One on the 11th of the 11th. So and that's coming up this week.
Right.
So yeah, we'll have that up this week. This is just it's like a respect to the people who have fallen in war. That's what it's for.
There's a few different ones that'll come up, and we actually have a Christmas one that will go up later on, closer to the season.
Yeah, fucking December is when it fucking goes up.
That's right. Not till then.
Yeah, not till then. If anybody asks, it gets prolonged by a day. Right, so I think that's it then. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, thank you for being here. We got an interview with Lizzie Post coming on Tuesday. I think she's coming on the 7th. It's Tuesday.
Always fun talking to Lizzie.
I'll get the links up. And don't forget the competitions over on Percy'sGrowroom.com as well. We're going to be giving away a light to the patrons. We're giving away some beans. There's lots of stuff going on all the time over on Percy's Grow Room. So join us over there. I think that's it. Let's fade in the music nice and professionally, as you are all accustomed to on this very pro channel. And thanks again. We'll catch you on Tuesday, but if not, Sunday.
Either way, Tuesday or Sunday, we'll be here both days.
Okay. Catch you later, everybody. Goodbye.
Later, everybody.